So here it is, the Mercedes-Benz GLB, a fully fledged SUV built with inspiration taken from the B-Class, but with a squared off design. So today we'll run through the exterior, interior with all of the seats, the huge boot, and we'll take it for a drive too. Now, having spoken to people before about the Mercedes-Benz GLB, it always has kind of mixed views. Some people absolutely love the car's kind of squared off design on the exterior. Some people even go as far as calling it like a baby G-Wagon, but some people don't like it that much because of that squared off design. It's all down to user preference really. I mean, personally from my point of view, I actually prefer a bit of curvature in the car's bodywork. But if you're the type of person that's after maximum practicality, you don't mind it having a squared off design to give you that much room, you want loads of headroom, a large boot, 7 seats, the GLB could be a contender. And that very neatly brings me onto the dimensions of the GLB. Now, if you're in the market for a GLB, you may have also come across the models GLA, GLC and GLE. Now those are in size order. GLA is obviously the smallest, that's a 5-seater. Got the GLB, this has options for a 7-seater, I believe it's standard in the UK. And then GLC SUV, and then there's also a GLE SUV as well. GLE is a 7-seater. So just to save you guys some time, here are all the dimensions for all those cars on the screen here, but pay close attention to the GLA and the GLB width. They're exactly the same, and that's been done on purpose to make it super easy to park in car parking spaces and that sort of thing. So if you're after a GLA and you stumbled across this video of the GLB and you're kind of wondering how much bigger is it, it's not that much bigger. Obviously pay attention to the length, that is about 20 centimeters, 8 inches longer, so obviously factor that in if you have a garage, but width, it's exactly the same. Obviously the main difference is its height, it's just a bit bigger in terms of that. Obviously then you've got the GLC, that is 2023 model, which I haven't actually reviewed yet, so obviously stay subscribed guys if you want to see that one. Then there's the GLE, which actually handily is just behind me over there. That is the larger one. There is another larger SUV in Mercedes as well, but I won't cover that in this video. But yeah, GLE obviously the larger one. Fun fact though, GLB is the smallest and most affordable 7-seater in the Mercedes-Benz range. Now, when it comes to the boot, this is where the GLB shines because it has that squared off design. The boot capacity is actually 570 litres with the seats up here like this. But of course, if you fold them down, then it can go to 1,805 litres, which is huge and mainly achieved because of that kind of squared off design. But notice here, we have 7 seats in here, so this is obviously quite good because if you have growing families and that sort of thing, you just need the extra space, you know, you can adapt the car depending on what you need. Now obviously the car here at this moment in time is set up for 5 seats, but the second row seats are actually on runners, so I'll show you that in a second. You can actually move them forwards and backwards to give these guys legroom in the back. Now obviously it's not for full-size adults, it's mainly for you know, smaller passengers, but nice to have that option. Now, utilising the third row is super easy. So quite simply, all you do is adjust these seats and move them forwards to give the guys in the back more room. So at the moment, they don't have any room at all. So put your hand under here, grab the handle and move the whole seat forwards and backwards like this. Now that is as far forward as it goes, but there are different increments in between. So we'll put it about halfway there, maybe about there. And then this little thing here, you pull this and then you can adjust the backrest as well. Now this is obviously how you fold them down, just like this, but if I put it kind of about, that's where it locks in, let's put it about there, and then this one as well, let's put it about there, and then you can obviously see the difference in how much further forward there with the that seat I haven't touched. So now that I've given a bit of legroom, let's head to the back, and then on the back we'll notice here, if I pull this red handle and pull that black one up, that's how you fold the seat. So super easy. So when you are in the back, you do have your own headrest, which is quite neat. The third row seats also have their own cup holders, unless you have the no eating or drinking rule. And there's also USB-C ports in the back as well for charging compatible phones and that sort of thing. So yeah, all the gear there. So let me just put all these back down. So push that in, fold that one down there, simply pull the red handle just like that, and then you can move the seats back here, which will bring me very neatly onto how much legroom there is on the second row in the back. And for the second row seats then guys, so as is custom with all my videos, I always set this seat up here for my driving position. So yes, believe it or not, I'm 6'2" and that's set up for me, and I've got this much legroom here. Now obviously I've set the seats back up here for being a 5-seater, so the third row is currently down. But of course if you are going to utilise the third row, then you'd move these forwards probably about halfway, which I'd say is about there, and then the backrest, which if I find the rope, is probably about halfway there. So then yeah, you have this much legroom, and of course then you can adjust this seat and this seat depending on who's going to sit in the back, so it's quite adjustable. Also you can do this one, then that one as well, with that lever underneath that I showed you a minute ago. So let's put him back for now and put that back there like that. So other things in the back here, we've got vents for the rear passengers, USB-C ports down there. There's 2 there actually, so that means there's 2 in the very back for the third row, 2 here for the second row, and there's definitely going to be at least 1 at the front as well, so 1 or 2 at the front, which I'll cover in a second. So yeah, everyone can charge their phone at the same time, so that's pretty good. I'm closing back up. And then cup holders, everyone always asks about the cup holders, but they are in the back in here just like this. So yeah, loads of space in the back here, and I don't know if I mentioned the nets there for storage as well. So, and the storage on the doors there, very nice. You get to nice big bottles and things in there. So all around, loads of space in the back. So let's have a look at the front. Now when it comes to the front then guys, this is what Mercedes-Benz GLBs look like on the inside, and I've got to say they do look stunning. So this kind of design came out on the A-Class in 2018 with this kind of double widescreen display. Well, to the masses anyway. Technically speaking, there was a double kind of widescreen on the S-Class prior to that, but they certainly weren't as vivid as this. And even to this day in 2023, they really do look the part. So depending on specification, obviously guys, if you're based in the UK, do factor in that when you go to shop around for a Mercedes-Benz GLB, or if you're configuring one online, keep an eye out for those premium and premium plus packages. Those add gadgets to the car. So I won't run through exactly what's on those because obviously it can change over time, but things like sunroofs to ambient lighting to larger screens, upgraded sound systems, keyless entry, just look for those things on those packages. Obviously it will vary over time and that sort of thing, but those kind of add gadgets to the cars, so have a look at those. But obviously if you're based somewhere else, then it might be slightly different. But yeah, in terms of the interior here, we've got these 2 widescreen displays. They're customizable on the steering wheel. You've got these little touchpad controls here, and of course a touchpad in the middle, and it is a touchscreen. Now I won't run through complete specifics of these screens, as I have loads of other videos on my channel on how to customize just that screen or even that screen, or tips and tricks on how to get the most out of it all. So do check out those if you want to see more about the multimedia system in Mercedes. But in a nutshell, it's pretty good. Of course there are options for Apple CarPlay as well, but yeah, it is all touchscreen, and there's even a voice assistant on here as well that you can talk to and give it commands simply by saying the word, "Hey Mercedes."
How can I help?
And then she'll come up on screen like this. And obviously this is a brand new car, so it won't be fully functional yet, but I'll just press the back button and cancel that off. So yeah, interior design, absolutely amazing. You've got this kind of ambient lighting in the vents, which is quite nice. And of course you can tweak the colours on one of the many options here, and do multicolour as well, and have like red and yellow to match the dials, and even change the colour of the dials to other things as well. So customization, yes, there's absolutely loads you can do. And then there's of course your USB-C ports there. So there's 1 here and there's another one here, so that's a total of 6 USB-C ports in the car. 2 for the front, 2 for the second row, and 2 for the third row as well. And there's a 12-volt socket there as well, so definitely not a shortage of power. Yeah, I guess the only thing to try it now is what it's like out on the road in the pouring rain. So good job. The car that Mercedes-Benz pulls lined up for me has 4MATIC, which is Mercedes-Benz's four-wheel drive system. So here we go then guys, this is the GLB on the road. So I've got the GLB 220D 4MATIC here at the moment. So this is a 2-litre diesel, and there are other engines available as well, but I'll go through those in a minute. So basically what I thought I'd cover first is that 4MATIC system. So it's only on the Mercedes-AMG GLB 35, and then also the GLB 220D only on those two. So the other two engines available are front-wheel drive. But the way the 4MATIC works is quite clever and quite fitting, because obviously the weather today is not that great. So yeah, the way the 4MATIC system works on the compact cars of Mercedes is actually a variable system. So what it does, it primarily drives on front-wheel drive, but when it needs the power, it will put it to the back. Now, some cars out there, there are various different ones, but there are like a 50-50 split between the axles. But on this particular car, it's front-wheel drive most of the time, but when it needs it, it'll put the power to the back like instantaneously. You wouldn't notice. Yeah, obviously perfect to try out today, so we'll try that out in a minute. But yes, engines. So in GLB and in the UK, and correct at the time of recording, there is a GLB 200. This is a 1.3 litre, and yes, 1.3. It's no slouch either. It's 163 horsepower, so more than powerful enough for what most people need, but surprisingly very fast. I remember I drove it before when the A-Class came out in 2018, funny enough when the screens came out, and yeah, it's a pretty fast engine. But if you do want more power, there's the 2 litre GLB 35. Now sadly I haven't actually driven that car yet, so they're quite rare, but if you wanted a high performance car with all that practicality I mentioned earlier, then you could consider that one. Of course, on the diesel front there's a GLB 200D, that's a 2 litre diesel, and then the 220D 4MATIC, which is also a 2 litre diesel. I'll put the horsepowers on the screen at the bottom so you can see the differences between the two. But yes, the one I have now is 4MATIC, so in particularly horrible conditions like this, it can be quite useful. Obviously it can't beat aquaplaning or anything like that, but it's nice to know that it can turn all four wheels, especially in the UK, because the weather is not that great, and us Brits do moan about the weather quite a lot. Here we go, just approaching the roundabout now. So what I'll do, I'll swing round and come back up, and we'll try out sport mode. So there's a little switch down here that lets you choose the driving mode. In this particular car there's eco mode, comfort mode, sport mode. There's even individual mode as well, which lets you make your own mode, and you can change gears using the paddles, which is quite good. So something you wouldn't normally be able to do in a rear-wheel drive car is obviously accelerate in these potentially horrible conditions out onto a dual carriageway like this here, and it just sticks to the road like glue, and then back at 70 again. So yeah, it really didn't take long. I would love to get a 4MATIC or four-wheel drive car or something similar from an X car, just because it just takes away that kind of thing you have to worry about with stuff like this. Obviously you still do have to be careful, but it just has an extra bit of peace of mind. Now, a few of you did mention before, when I covered the GLB previously on my channel, you asked about the body roll, and to be honest, I don't notice it that much. I mean, yes, of course the car is slightly higher than a normal car, and obviously if you drove it round corners particularly quickly, then you might notice it, but I don't think most people are going to notice, to be honest. I mean, it suits me down to the ground, so I can't see it being an issue, and most of us don't drive like that anyway. But it obviously is something, you know, try it out. You can take it for a test drive at your local Mercedes and see how you get on. Of course, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button and that subscribe button down below. And of course, a very, very huge shout out to Sandown Mercedes for helping arrange access to all these awesome cars you see in the videos. It'd be very tricky to do it without them. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Until next week, see you then.